Good afternoon. Let's try that one more time. Good afternoon. And welcome to all of our guests here at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. As you know, we have a very special program today, one that we've all been waiting for. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming to the stage the board chair of the North Carolina A&T Trustees, Kimberly Bullock Gatling. Chair Gatling.
Good afternoon, everyone. What a great day it is in Aggieland. I want to thank you all for joining us in person for today's special announcement. And for those of you who are on the live stream, thank you for taking time from your work schedules and family obligations to join us as well. Just 9 months ago, almost to the day, the North Carolina A&T Board of Trustees gathered in this very room and heard from Chancellor Harold L. Martin that this would be his final year in leadership at North Carolina A&T. As board chair, I took a deep breath, knowing that it would take a very special person to fill these shoes. 9 months later, time that was spent on a thorough national search that attracted interest from incredible leaders across the United States, we have found that person. Chancellor-elect Dr. James R. Martin II, who in August will become the 13th Chancellor of North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. To spend just a few moments telling you about the amazing Dr. Martin. He is an accomplished academic administrator and noted civil engineer who has led engineering and STEM initiatives at 3 large public R1 research universities, including Virginia Tech, Clemson, and Pitt. As a researcher, he built an international reputation for work in geotechnical earthquake and risk engineering. His cutting-edge research, much of it conducted in earthquake zones around the world, has had a major impact on national building codes and creating infrastructure and buildings that will last. That would be impressive enough, but that's not all, not by a long shot. He is a passionate, longtime proponent of harnessing technology and access to learning to unlock human potential and to meet the needs of higher education and a nation increasingly reliant on STEM disciplines. At Virginia Tech, that meant serving for 2 decades as a professor of civil engineering, serving countless students, creating the university's well-known Disaster Risk Management Institute, and consulting with more than 100 firms and government agencies around the world. At Clemson, it meant developing new curricula and degree programs in civil engineering, leading record research growth, creating innovative partnerships with industry, and being the inaugural leader to hold the Bob Benmosh Professor and Chair of the Glenn Department of Civil Engineering. And over the past 6 years at the University of Pittsburgh, it meant serving as the first U.S. Steel Dean of Engineering for the Swanson School of Engineering, and subsequently as Pitt's Vice President for STEM Research and Innovation. In that latter role, he has served as a leader for a $1.3 billion university research portfolio, setting strategy and direction not just for research at Pitt's main campus, but its 4 regional campuses across Pennsylvania. Throughout his career, Dr. Martin has published more than 100 peer-reviewed papers and book chapters. He and his work are so well regarded that he has been a featured speaker before national organizations, ranging from CNN to the White House, focusing on higher education, research, and disaster mitigation topics. Closer to Aggieland, he has consulted with a wide range of firms and organizations across North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia, including with Duke Energy. All that might be for naught, however, if he didn't get A&T and the very special place that our university holds, not just among thousands of U.S. universities, federal and state agencies, and industries, but in the hearts and minds of our alumni, our faculty and staff, and most importantly, our students. But let me assure you, Dr. Martin does indeed get it. He gets what we have built here. He recognizes the hallmarks of things that are built to endure, to thrive, to last. More than that, he knows what we stand for, where we've been, and where we are going. As a person of real achievement in exactly the spaces where A&T is moving, he gets it when we say A&T is always doing and never done. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm Aggie welcome to a man who in just 2 months will become the leader of our illustrious university, Chancellor-elect James R. Martin II. Thank you.
Wow, what a moment. Good afternoon. What a moment. We have to say that with Aggie pride. What a moment. All right. Yeah, I tell you, this is such a delightful day. And I'm absolutely delighted to have been selected to serve as the next chancellor here of just a tremendous university. A university, our premier HBCU in this country. A university that is a shining star in the constellation of universities in North Carolina. This university that we love, this beloved university, North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. What a day. What a day. And to say I'm proud and grateful is an understatement. But I want to say to you that being at different universities and being in the business of higher education, there are 2 critical ingredients that really determine whether we realize the ultimate potential of universities. Well, first, we've got to have hardworking faculty and staff and students and the support and dedicated alumni and friends of the university and support from the region. Of course, we need all that. But there are 2 critical ingredients that really help us realize the ultimate potential of a university, especially in the context of the day. And 2 of those things are, one is governance, and the other is leadership. And when I'm talking about governance, the context in which I mean it here is the way we select our leaders. Now, the leaders have to be committed to be the best possible leaders they can be. And I make a commitment to you, that will be me. You will know you've selected the right person, no doubt about that. But I want to say something about the process that was involved, from my perspective, to get us here. The thorough vetting, the significant vetting, challenging, questioning, discussions, wide range of stakeholder engagements, the amount of integrity involved in this process. It was inspiring. So I want to start with expressing a debt of gratitude to those that were involved in this process, because that was important, the way we select our leaders. So first, I want to thank the members of the Search Advisory Committees, chaired by Trustee Hilder Penix-Racklin, and the Storbeck search firm, and especially for the careful thought and investment of time in vetting this great pool of national candidates to make sure we had a successful outcome, and to protect the anonymity of everyone involved. Next, I want to thank the university and community members that I had a chance to meet with and interface with. And regardless how this process will have turned out, I was so inspired and so engaged because I could feel that deep commitment to A&T. So I met with students, I met with faculty, I met with very talented professional staff, I met with alumni, I met with community members. They all let you know this is a special place. So I was really inspired by that. I want to thank all of the ones that I met with. I particularly want to thank the chair of the Board of Trustees, Kimberly Gatling. She has been so informative and so generous. So thank you throughout this process. Your attention to detail, your focus, the conversations we have. Thank you for the professionalism and everything that you've done. And I'm enormously thankful. I watched some of the video feed for the UNC System President, Peter Hans, and the Board of Governors for all of their attentive consideration and for their vote of confidence in me. And it was made clear to me by everyone I met with, but particularly as we had discussions with the board, that expectations are high. Expectations are high. Good. That's what we like. This place is about excellence. Because they know, and we all know, that only the best will do for this university, for NCA&T. Only the best will do. And you can bet I am committed to not only meeting those expectations, but exceeding those expectations. That accountability starts with me. We're about excellence. That fits well. I'm about excellence too, okay? And we're going to keep our foot on the gas, right? And I also want to thank Chancellor Martin, Harold Martin, for the excellent support and friendship that you've extended, especially as the board vote got nearer, and just what you've meant and the way that you've gone about your business. Every conversation we had started with the same thing, excellence. We're going to focus on excellence and outcomes. So thank you very much for that. And I have to say, I know I want to get this out of the way, right? I know we're going to make a joke about this, right? So yeah, I'm going there. So let me see. We're both named Martin, right? We both grew up here in the South. We both went to Virginia Tech. We both got a PhD in engineering from Virginia Tech. And what I found out recently, we both had the same first job, which was driving a school bus while we were in high school, right? Now, I don't want to go too much further back. But I guess the board thought, that worked out pretty good the first time, let's do this again. So with those thank yous, I want to spend a little bit of time. We don't select a new chancellor every day, so I want to spend a little bit of time and just tell you a little bit about my journey here and about why this is special to me. So as I was reflecting on what today would be like and reflecting on what it meant to be back in this area, I really never left the Carolinas. I started thinking about all the connections. You see, those of us from the South, we know that place means something. We don't go too far. And even if we do, we always have this attraction to place. Now, I grew up in Union, South Carolina, which is the county next to York, just below Rock Hill. And actually, I grew up in the western part of that area in a little town called Cross Keys, South Carolina. Probably won't do you much good to look for it on a map because it doesn't have a post office, doesn't have a red light, but it was a little farming community. I grew up on a farm. My mother was an educator. My father worked for the phone company. They went on to have careers as local elected officials. I learned a lot from them. From the time I was 7 years old, I was driving a tractor on the family farm, which is still there in Union, South Carolina, in this little town called Cross Keys. But I wanted to talk, as I was reflecting, I wanted to talk about the things that connect me to this region. You see, if I grew up on Highway 49, it's a little small highway in that rural farming community. As I started thinking about being here, just on the other side of Burlington is North Carolina, Highway 49. It's the same highway, right? And I started immediately thinking about, wow, where everything started for me was just on the other side of Highway 49 for me. And I immediately felt a greater sense of connectedness. Because every time I'm coming home, when I get down there on Highway 49, usually coming out of Charlotte, I'm starting to feel like, yeah, I'm back home, right? And I thought about it. It's telling a story. It's not just something that links two locations. It's telling a story. It's telling a story of lives and people and promises kept and promises not kept. It's telling a story about futures. And every time I'm driving down Highway 49 and I feel that connection, I have two thoughts. The first thought is how fortunate I am to have a life that has unfolded the way it is for me. How grateful I am. How many things had to go right. How many people had to intervene in my life to get to where I am. It was hard to get to where I am. I had a lot of tragedy and loss in my life. I didn't grow up with much. Never would have thought my life would have turned out like this. The second thought that I have as I'm driving down that road is I ask myself, how much stranded brilliance is along these highways running around our communities and our state and our nation? How much untapped human potential is there out there? And I represent that story. Stranded brilliance. For us to realize the full potential of our region, our state, our nation, we have to do as much as we can to maximize human potential. We can't afford to have stranded brilliance anywhere in this country. And that's what I think about when I'm driving down Highway 49. How many Ron McNairs are there in the world that grew up in Lake City, South Carolina? How many of those are out there that we don't know about? Let's make sure we keep our foot on the gas so we don't have stranded brilliance. So with that, there are three pillars that really inform me and my mission in higher education and why I'm so excited about being here. So I want to talk to you about purpose, I want to talk to you about place, and I want to talk to you about this period. So first, my purpose, and I just told you something about my journey. The reason why I'm in higher education, what motivates me, is that higher education serves as a platform for upward social mobility in people's lives. And not just in society. Getting a degree in engineering for me, allowed me to transform not only my life, but I was able to transform my entire family and the folks I interacted with and neighborhoods. Look at what I'm doing now. It was because of the transformative power of higher education. That's what it means. And the other thing that I realize that's really important about that, and I want to share with all of you, because it is what informs my personal story. You see, early on, I started to understand, because of what was instilled to me, the importance of learning. Learning is a lifestyle. It is not an event. When it comes to learning, we should all be doing, always doing, never done. And I want to tell you where that came from and where I started to make that connection for me. And what it means is if you really want to change a life, if you want to change a household, if you want to change a community, change its relationship to learning, and you will change it, and it will stay changed. That's how you do it. Where I started to make that connection was when I was a young kid, and I'm not all that old, still feel like I'm sort of a young man here. It's just a hairstyle. But when I was growing up in South Carolina, schools were not integrated. And it took a while, at least in my area. And I went to a segregated school my first year, so schools didn't integrate until my second grade year. And so as I was going to school my second grade year, I remember the first day when I got home from school, my parents asked me, well, how was school? How was your day? What did you learn? And I had to explain, if I couldn't explain everything in detail that I saw and learned, they were pretty upset with me. But here's the thing. They asked, where did you sit? I said, well, what do you mean? I just got a seat. I was somewhere in the middle. My mother said, no. Every classroom you go into, it doesn't matter if you have to get there 20 minutes early. I will take you to school early. You sit in the front row. I don't want you sitting in the back. You belong here, and you're not here to be distracted. You're not here to play around, because you got to understand, you don't have a plan B. You're going to have to focus on learning. You're going to need to sit in the front row. And so every single day they would ask me, did you sit in the front row? Did you sit in the front row? Yes, I sat in the front row. And my folks, they meant so much to me, and they did so many for others. And I know they're looking down today, and they're so proud. And I just want to say to my folks, I listened to you, and today your son is sitting in the front row, just like what you told me. Yeah. I want to talk about this place and the legacy and the excellence of this place, which has had a profound impact on this country morally, socially, economically, and it still has incredible impact, a disproportionate impact on this country. North Carolina A&T started as an institution in 1891, started as an institution of access. It's the only place that black students could go and study in that region. Now it's an institution of excellence that happens to have the culture of an HBCU. And look at the production. Look at what it means. This university produces more black engineering graduates than any other university in the country. And all the other disciplines on campus are ranked somewhere at least in the top 10 of the number of black graduates that they produce in this country. And let's talk about some of the accolades. U.S. News and World Report ranked North Carolina A&T in the top 5% for upward social mobility. We're number 2 in the state in terms of students with starting salaries, right behind North Carolina State University. We also ranked in the upper 25 in innovative universities. Now think about that. We're in the top 5% of universities that raise people up, but we're also among the top 25 schools in the country for innovation. Who are we tied with? Number 25. We tied with 2 other schools. Well, a small school out west in California that you probably never heard of that shares the same colors, called UCLA. That's one of those. And the other school was Virginia Tech. Right? That's who we tied with in terms of innovation. Think about that combination. I don't know any other schools in this country that have that unique impact. There's something special in our DNA. And oh, should I say, This is also the most affordable doctoral research university in the entire country. So that means that the word is out. The word is out. The Chronicle of Higher Education said that between 2011 and 2021, this was the fastest growing doctoral research university in terms of applicants. Let me give you some numbers. In 2014, there were 12,000 applicants to study here at North Carolina A&T. This past fall, there were 42,000 applicants to study here. 350% increase. I think that deserves a hand because it says that people notice what's going on and how special this is and the value that we're providing and the human potential that we're helping to realize. This country needs more thinking like what is going on here at North Carolina A&T, and that is why I'm so excited about being here. Huge impact in our state and huge impact in our country. And before I finish talking about how special this place is, I want to talk about HBCU culture and what it means to me. You see, when I went to school, I had one opportunity to go to school. I went to the Citadel, and I was so fortunate to earn an academic scholarship to go to the Citadel. But that was my only shot. And I have a classmate that was at the Citadel now that I recognize. We know how difficult that environment was. I only had one shot at it. I had those 4 years at the Citadel, and my parents said, this is it. We can't afford anything else. Now, fortunately, again, I had a scholarship, and I remember as we were pulling up to the Citadel in a station wagon, my father turned around, he said, well, son, you know, this is going to be very challenging for you in many, many different ways, because you have to think about what year this was. And he said, you know, if they really treat you too bad, you can come back home and we'll still love you. And my mother turned around and said, oh, no, you can't. Oh, no, you can't. No, this is your decision to go here. This is your one shot, and you're going to get it done. I don't care how tough it is. Don't make a phone call because we're not coming to get you. Now, she was serious. And frankly, the Citadel was kind of easy based on the way I grew up with my parents. But my point is that I had one way out. Like many of our students here, we have to make it. The other part that I want to say is that throughout my career, from the time I was a student and now as a professional, I've always had to swim upstream culturally. I was always having to work in an environment where the culture was different than I was. I had to work hard to adapt to the culture. And I've always asked myself, boy, if I were a student and I had the opportunity to be around over 13,000 students that looked like me, that thought like me, where I didn't have to work so hard to fit in, where I could find my place. And that was supported by an incredible, hardworking faculty and talented professional staff that let me know that they were vested in my success. There is no telling what else I could have accomplished in that environment. I don't know what it would have been, but I guarantee you, if I could have focused on other things, I could have spent time to be creative and impactful in other ways. Now, I bet resilience and toughness, but swimming upstream is still swimming upstream. Okay, so we have something special here. So that means that what are we going to do for the future? We've got a great plan, which was just referred to, Preeminence 2030. We're going to build on that. We're going to build on the successes that we had. We know the things we want to do. We talked about becoming an R1 university. We kind of are almost there. We want to continue to focus on excellence and quality for our students. want to have more engagement experience, want to keep costs down. We want to partner with lots of our communities. We want to be a source of economic impact. We already create an economic impact of $2.4 billion. We want to do more of that. But you see, what I've just explained is that something so singular and special has been created here at North Carolina A&T. I am excited. I can't wait until the 15th of August when I can, in earnest, start to engage everyone here to hear ideas about what our next big, audacious goals will be. You know we're going to focus on excellence, and you know the goals are going to be stretch goals, they're going to be audacious, and you know we're going to be committed to excellence, and we're going to do it with pride, because that's how we do it here. In other words, we're going to keep our foot on the gas. We're going to build on what's going on here. And I want to end up talking about the third point that all of us need to be aware of is this important time in our country and this important time in higher education. This period. This is a critical time, both in higher education and for America. You see, the largest advances in both innovation and higher education have always followed on the heels of major social disruptions. It's at times when the country had to come together. That's when we seem to get it right. So the first period, I want to tell you about three periods. The first period was after the Civil War. We had to bring this country together to pull it together from the ravages of war. We had to meet the challenges of the industrial age, which was just beginning in this country, right? How did we do that? We increased access to education, and we developed, we invested in advanced technology areas of that time, which was A&M. So we increased access to education by developing land-grant universities, especially in the South and the Midwest. And we were in the second tranche of those in 1891. Those started in the 1860s. So by increasing access to education and by having others that were formerly slaves emancipated and participating in our economy, what happened? The economy grew like crazy. We became the largest economy in the world around the same year that this university was founded because of increased participation in the economy and because of increased access to education. And I won't spend the time to go through history, but there were a lot of phenomenal breakthroughs and a lot of connections to North Carolina and South Carolina that showed the tremendous advancements that we were making because so many new people had a chance to contribute to the forward motion of this economy. But at some point, we took our foot off the gas. We took our foot off the gas. And let's shift forward about 80 years to World War II. Again, we had to meet a crisis, a global crisis with a global conflict. We were fighting wars in Europe, wars in the Pacific. And following that, we had increasing tensions with the Soviets. How did we meet those challenges? Increased access to education and investing in high technology eras then. That's what we did. You see, in the 10 years, the decade following World War II, more than 10 million veterans got access to some form of secondary education because of the GI Bill. We had 20 million women that entered the workforce from 1950 to 1980. In 1957, we had Sputnik, that satellite from the Soviet Union flying around. Why did that scare the heck out of everybody in this country? Because the Soviets had a nuclear capability. And if they were in space first, the idea was, wow, they might deliver some of that here before we are. So that was, how did we respond to that? In 1958, we developed the National Defense Education Act, which is the precursor to our student loan program. Because we said, we need a lot more people that can work in these high technology areas. So we increased access to education. Not everybody had the same access. We took our foot off the gas. We became a superpower, but at some point along the way, we took our foot off the gas. So now, we're about 80 years past World War II, and this is another critical time period for all of us. But something is different about this period. In those other previous periods, we were moving ahead and advancing from other nations. Now, in this period, other people are catching up to us. Countries like China. And there are two ironies that we need to keep in mind as we think about our responsibility for right now, the urgency of this moment. There are two responsibilities and two ironies. The first irony is what was our biggest advantage, which was our multifaceted diversity, demographic diversity, geographic diversity, people coming from all over the world participating in a free market. At some point, that, in those previous two periods, that became a weakness because we took our foot off the gas. But that was part of the secret sauce. The second irony, others that are catching up to us now are catching up to us by executing the American playbook that we invented. By investing in higher education, having the best universities, having more people with opportunity, investing in those growing areas. So we can't afford to take our foot off the gas. We can't afford to take our foot off the gas as a nation. We can't afford to take our foot off the gas here at North Carolina A&T. So as we think about building the bright future that we deserve, and we deserve the very best, I want you to know we're going to have our foot on the gas, and we're going to continue accelerating. So thank you, and I am thrilled to be here with Aggie Pride. Aggie Pride. I was told that I need to act dignified, so that was about the best I could do.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. We're going to take a few moments here to take some questions from media who are in the middle of the room here. Who would like to start? Alan?
Well, while I'm standing. I'm Alan Johnson with the News and Record.
Yes.
And one of the things that is happening right now throughout higher education is a period of demographic change.
Sure.
Where the pool is becoming smaller.
Yes.
Competition is becoming more intense for students. How do you see A&T fitting into that and coping with that challenge?
I see us thriving. I see us doing well. The demographics, you know, I talk about this a lot. If you look at the demographics, North Carolina is forecast to be the fastest growing state in the country, or at least fastest, put it this way, growing faster than the national average between now and 2050, right? So we got a lot of population moving here. People are moving out in the Northeast, to the Carolinas, to places like Texas, and to the mountain states. Those areas are gaining population. So for us here, when I talked about place, I talked primarily about here at A&T, but North Carolina is doing pretty well. business-friendly state. We are always ranked for the last few years, at least, at the top 1 or 2 places for business. People want to be here. The student demand, as I mentioned, is really important. So this is an area, if you look at the Carolinas, this is a growing area as an innovation hub, as a technology hub. Look at the big industries that are moving here with Wolfspeed and others. Many different sectors are developing here. So unlike some of the other institutions, especially those up in the Northeast, right, I think we're in a better position to focus on that. But let me also say, in my comments, I talked about value, right? I talked about the affordability and I talked about the impact. So I'm not talking about numbers when I talk about demographics. I'm talking about impact. We're going to double down and still be committed to affordability, return on investment, right? Impact, more access, but all done with excellence. And people are saying, there's something special about this place. So we're going to build on that. And we're also going to we're going to certainly build bigger and bigger branding for this university, especially internationally and online. And that is part of, I think that's part of the growth area is the online space, you know. And of course, I want us to engage our whole community and have that discussion, but those are the first thoughts that I have about that. But what you said is really important. One more thing I'll say about that. There is something also to the demographics that I'm starting to study, and it's called the big sort. Is that not only are we having demographic shifts, but we're having clustering of people with similar ideology and thoughts that are going to certain areas because there are more people that seem to think like that. So it's really interesting that as we start to study, and I don't think any of us know what the implications of that would be. But I can tell you right now, there is no better place to be than right here for me. I can tell you that.
Lloyd Whittington, Triad Business Journal. What position do you expect to take on the reversal of historical funding inequities?
Well, you know, I think that is a larger, more systemic issue, right? We can't change the past, right? So the best answer to that is we have a business case. We're providing excellence. We're meeting the goals of the state. We're creating economic development. We have very specific outcomes. We connect resources to those outcomes. And we're going to continue to build on that. We're going to continue to look at opportunities. We're going to continue to look to opportunities to grow. And the other part of that is, what is it that we have that's unique? Well, if we have something that's unique, that puts you in a little different category, right? So I think we're going to talk more and leverage what makes us unique, right? You see, the sense of place is really important, as I just talked about. But then there are some things that can transcend geographical boundaries. There are certain partnerships that we can have. It's not just one source for resources. So we're going to look at diversification as well, right? And so I look at impacts not just here. I look at impacts all across this country. I want this to be the model university that shows how we develop human potential. And it's my belief that not only will we get the resources that we need, we're going to get people believing in what we're doing, right? And we're starting to see that. And that becomes what you call a movement. And let me say, we're pretty good at movements, right? Right? Because this human potential that we're talking about is compelling stories. Look, when you build a bigger pie, everybody gets a bigger slice. So focusing on outcomes, having a strong business case, I know that will get us there, and then some.
We'll take time for just one more media question and then move to the back of the room.
Thank you. Joe Killian from the Assembly. So you just said that a major mistake in our American history was taking our foot off the gas as concerned diversity. And there's been a lot of controversy in our state higher education system over diversity, what it means, who gets to advocate for that. And the official position of the university system now is that universities, their leaders, and their faculty have to remain neutral on social and political questions of the day. A&T's history is built on not doing that, not remaining neutral on some of the most divisive social and political issues of the day. I wonder where you see A&T and yourself as a leader in this conversation.
Well, it's very simple. As I just mentioned, A&T has a singular focus. And I can tell you what diversity means here, because different people have different words that they twist around. So the shifting sands of DEIA and all the political noise around it, for us here, diversity means a multicultural meritocracy based on merit and excellence. That's what it's based on. The rest of the world comes here because of the diversity, and that speaks for itself. And so for me, I look at the importance of being singularly focused on what I just talked about. We have clarity of mission. This university is here for a reason. We're based on excellence, right? And we happen to be an HBCU. And that's being validated by unprecedented demand. That is what I'm focused on. I'm focusing on putting our foot on the gas. And what you were saying earlier about saying that it was a mistake that we took our foot off the gas, I was pointing out that it only means we will be better off. My fundamental belief, whether it's a mistake or whether it's not a mistake, it depends on whether you believe that we are the best possible country when we do the most to maximize human potential of everyone across this country. And we are better off. Now, if you believe that, then that means when we took our foot off the gas and it showed up economically, you see, then it was a mistake, right? But this is important. It's not just socioeconomically. If we're not having the most robust economy, communities that are sticking together, the most innovation, that speaks directly to national security, right? If you're not the biggest economy, what does that mean for national security? Look at how fast China is growing, for instance. So we're not the big dogs on the block like we used to be, and that is my concern. That is exactly what we did in the 1950s to create the National Defense Education Act, because we were saying the way we're going to do that is by maximizing human potential. And I do believe that is our way forward. And we're going to have to do that to be the best possible country. And I want us to do that with a sense of urgency, and especially because I said what's different in this period, others are catching up to us. Look at the rate of growth of China and what they're doing. Look what they're doing socioeconomically. Look at what they're doing militarily. We got work to do. So the big mistake is not keeping our foot on the gas, absolutely, if that's what you believe, and that's what I believe.
Thank you to our friends and media, and Dr. Martin, we'll throw it back to you for some concluding remarks.
Well, the concluding remarks are that, once again, I'm thrilled to be here. I hope you can see that I'm a little bit passionate about what this means, and it is certainly my purpose to exceed these expectations that we've set. I like this standard of excellence, this incredible special place. Let's look back on this day and think, you know, this is a day that we all came together and started planning for our future. So I look forward to us creating a bold, beautiful, bright future. And you know what? We're going to always be doing, but we're never going to be done in that, okay? So we'll go back. So I think there is a reception in the back. I've been told what to do all day, so.
Thank you, Dr. Martin, and thank you all for being with us today. Thank all of you who are on the live stream for joining us. That concludes our program and the live stream, and we invite all of you to join us for the reception next door.